hugging each other. They were good.
Mac and Morgan?
What, Mac and Morgan. And this guy in the middle was the guy that spoke German. I never did even know him. They just put him on there when we flew over the Bulge all day, and he intercepted German tank orders and relayed them back down to Cold Gate Control. And we flew an old crazy plane that day. It was a beautiful plane, but it had the nose track taken out and had a big an area, and I think it was for the big shots to go watch things, how we assembled and all that stuff. But anyway, that day we did that. We took that plane. I think we were out there about 11 hours, and just
How far in did you fly?
Huh?
How far in did you fly?
We were over the Bulge in Belgium, I guess where it was. But there was a cloud cover about 11,000 feet, and we just flew on top of that.
With no escort, or did you have an escort?
No, I don't think we didn't have anything. We just flew on and on and on over that top, and this guy was doing his thing with those German orders. But that wasn't the day this picture was taken. This picture was taken on Christmas. They were back in. They were all. Got that snapshot somewhere here. Bailey, our navigator, was a smart guy, and on that big old thing that Keith had made of our missions, and got his story, Bailey's story. He talks about all the techno stuff that we did, and all we did was fly the airplane. But I did see how they loaded the bombs and stuff on our combat, 10 mission with the 492nd. And we didn't see any fighters to speak of, but we did salvo all the bombs, the whole maybe 200 planes, 200 or 300 planes, I don't know how many. It was a maximum effort when we went to Munich. And had this foil icicle that you put on Christmas trees. Had big boxes of those, and the waist gunners would drop those out over the bomb run, and they'd break up and trail down, and all the radar would track on those. And by the time it got up to 20, 30,000 feet, wherever we bombed from, we were most, the right plane would be out of there. But that was interesting part of that. I don't think you hear much about things like that. But Wright was a fine boy.
After your 10 missions, you and who was it, O'Bert, went on to...
Well, our whole crew, we just, they signed us and we split up. I flew with old Colonel Adams as his co-pilot. He's crazy. He bring an old plane up where you'd be like that, and if you'd have slipped a little bit, hell, he'd turned over and couldn't cover. It scared the hell out of me, because it wasn't good, safe flying at all. He we had to make a formation when we came over our new place. They always show that when they peel off, and he was leading formation and peeled off and turned up and had to really make a tight turn to get around so he could land. Bert, I think, was flying one of the planes, and we just didn't. I'm taking all the stuff that we had in the 492nd. We missed the last 7 days of that. We were on a rest leave, and we were in Edinburgh. When we got home, found out those 2 planes crashed, and found out that they had decided to disband because I think they lost so many planes on. They were bombing Kiel on the inner around Holland places like that, they had those submarine pins made out of heavy concrete, and they were hard to penetrate, and they were well protected. When you went to Kiel or any place like that, it was really a hard mission. They had, I think they one time they had two groups to have mid-air collision, where they were supposed to go on their places where their flight, their flight plan, and these lead crews were always guys that were pushing for rank, and they all played pinochle all day down at the flight line. And the whole tale was that if you're a good pinochle player, it'd assign you to an important part. I think probably that was part of why the 492nd had such bad records. We got down to this Trang was the closest town, but our base, I forget what they called it, but it was about 40 miles west of London. And Bailey tells all about what they did to form this radar screen. I remember we taxied a plane into revetments, and they dug holes right under the one I saw was right under the lower bomb. It was just a bomb capsule, and they just dropped that thing, whole thing loose in that hole, and covered it over with dirt, and just made a metal cover to cover that hole. I never did look at it really close, because I never was back in the plane too much, except just a few times, because I had my job was just to do my thing in that one seat, and see that everybody was on oxygen and everything like that. So much of that stuff would make a good movie. They couldn't show it properly. Going up that day, I guess we were about the only plane in the HEO flying that day. It's so bad, and took this Hollywood lieutenant guy, and he had a script. I think it's just about a clipboard size, and handed everybody out. And when it came your turn, you're supposed to read what it was supposed to it sounded like a whole bunch of planes assembling, and they were all so careful about our broadcast being heard, but they purposely let that and get out. And so I remember I had a hell of a time getting down. The weather was so bad, we had to go way out west someplace. It was, I don't remember a whole lot. Only ones I remember was the ones where we had trouble, you know. Generally, you just go out there and do your mission and come back and land. Go back to your hut, and that would be it. We'd meet about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and get out to our spot at dark, just about dark, and all the Lancasters and all the British planes were, you could see them way down below and by you, and a lot of them came pretty close to us. We kind of worried about one of them running into us, because they just flew through, and we were jamming the radar, enemy radar, and they were flying right through that. And they just had a spot on the map where they dropped the bombs. They'd go right there, drop them, and come back. And they lost a lot of planes. They were flying pretty low. And then somebody decided that they'd start that radar stuff on the 8th, and we would fly about 20 miles ahead of the main bunch, and when we get to the enemy place, to the cross the North Sea on the continent, we'd turn around and come back, and they'd fly over. It's a good story. They called us down there one day, and it was pretty weather, and took a skeleton crew. Mac was in the nose turret. Maybe, I don't know if you want to. Anyway, Morgan and our engineer was there, and a radio man. That's all we took. Left the gunners and the tail turret. We didn't have anybody in that. And we flew this guy, this place, I think it was west of us, and a pretty good sized place. And these 4 guys came aboard, and they just had those sport coats, and they were, I think they were Harvard scientists from Harvard, and they were going to make a search mission, something to do with that, and I thought that we were just gonna go to the coastline, but hell, we got to the English coast and kept on going. Bailey had all that was kind of running that show, giving Bert our headings and everything. And we got on at the enemy coast, and I looked out, and I know I didn't imagine this, I didn't make it up, but I was looking up from the coast up a big street with buildings, and I thought it was Rotterdam or one of those big cities, but it was in enemy territory. And when Bert saw it, he talked to Bailey, and I guess Bailey talked to somebody, but we turned around and headed back home pretty quick. And seemed like we flew forever. Had a headwind, and I looked out, and this P-51 was sitting right out there, and that guy waved, I waved, gave him a thumbs up, and that's when the echelon, I saw the echelon. We were looking for a hole to go down. I guess we were about 8,000 feet or so, I don't know. But they strung out in the echelon and barrel rolled down through that hole, and we went on and got down. Bert was let down about 300 feet, which was just standard, let down through the clouds and couldn't see anything, and he'd do all the time. I'd just look out and I saw the green, and by that time it would be about 1,000 feet or so, and Bert would then start rolling out, and we're flying in the clouds real low. One day we were flying real low like that, and the fog was so low that we saw this one church steeple sticking out. And I said, hell, we are low, and when that happens, you get back to base and get permission to dust off the runway, because you could see it by the big beacon lights they had. Big old lights, you could see them through the clouds or fog, and you could fly down there, and the prop watch would clear everything pretty well. And by the time you come back around, you can land. Lots of times it land like that. And we had a smokestack out there, and we just come in and turn around that, and knew our locale, where end of a runway was by then. And at night, we had 3 lights, red, green, and amber, green, and red. And amber, you're too high, and green, you're okay, and red, you're low, so you pull up, and you're flying your heading on these big old lights are like one at the end of the runway and one at the other end. And you line those two up and you know you can see by the glow that you're coming in pretty well. And Bert would handle the throttle and everything, and I just look at that for that light and see we're in amber, green, or red, and when you get close enough, you can see the two big flares they put at either end. You line those up, and then by that time, you're low enough to see the big old runway lights all the way down. So you come in. We came in too hot that one time, I remember, and had to hit the brakes real hard and went on off the end of the runway and burned out the expander tubes. They told us later, and they had to replace the brakes, but I think, I guess pulled us out and we got out back on the taxi strip some way. But that was about all the excitement for that next 40 missions we flew. Everything was just about normal. We'd go out at 3 in the afternoon and come back, and they had circle lights around the field, and you could see that glow, and it'd stack you up and bring you down 500 foot. Come on down till you're down to the regular landing height that airplane used. And they bring you in. Old guy named Sackett was a pilot. He used to talk on the interphone a lot. We were doing that one day. They'd bring us down. Here we go down the mulberry bush, he say, you know. And the guy, they called him about that, and he stopped. I remember that. One time we came in and it was when the lights go on all over the world, they turn on all the lights. I think this was about, I don't know. But Bert came in and asked for flaps and everything. I gave it to him, and he had his mind set. He was going to land right on top of the train. Street lights for like a runway type. And I said, hell, Bert, there's a field over there. And he looked over there. You could see the round lights, and they had little turn lights that turn right into the runway. So you just follow that light around, and when you come your time to land, you just follow it around and then worry about being high or low or whatever. That was usually just a routine. It was just when the weather was good, you could see the lights and tell you what time, how it had come down. land, and that would be it. But it's just in real bad weather that we had problems. Other problems we had were the charger, supercharger or whatever, would run away sometime, and if you didn't throttle back, then it would, the engine turned so fast it would get up too fast, and probably throw a prop off or something. So, but we had, and other things they had problems with. They had flame dampeners over the exhaust. Sometimes they get oil in them and catch on fire. It'd be a slow burn under there, and all your gas lines were on there. Old Bullwinkle one night didn't want to. He was a pusher. He was pushing for a lead crew job. And they found out that if he'd have been another few minutes or so, the gas line had burned through it. It was charred just down to, where the flame was. And it was just stuff like that. And, superchargers and ice. One time, you always flew on automatic pilot, and you just turn that, and it would, the whole plane would turn and roll out where you wanted it to. And we took this long sweeping turn, but we were in the icy clouds, and we must have, when it went to roll out, hell, damn thing did a wing over, and we were heading down, and I remember we both got on